Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Dave Friedman,
I'm Danny Miller.
and we are D2 Educational Consulting. This is part two in a three-part series that we're doing on some of the tools that you need to put your boots on the ground as we move forward in growth-based grading practices for nursing education. In this episode, we'll start with our norms and guiding principles, followed by an anticipatory set. We're really looking at the at a glance framework today and how that provides a map to mastery for students by
hmm
coding assignments, and then we will reflect and close at the end. We always like to start with our norms and guiding principles. We use the Harvard Medical Schools and the CLSC's guiding governing assumption that everyone participating in our activities is intelligent, capable, and cares about doing their best and wants to improve.
And then off to the side, everybody, we've got our 5 norms and guiding principles that guide our practice as well. Feel free to pause very quickly and take one of these forward into the rest of the session to guide your own practice today.
Our session goals today revolve around the at a glance documents and how they support growth based grading approaches. So we'll define what those are, we'll explore their structure and purpose, and then we'll reflect on how the documents function for students in the program as a whole. As always, we ground ourselves in the AACN shifts as it pertains to growth based grading. We are here to really implement the philosophies, tools, and methodologies to shift what AACN has called us to do, which is to really make the competencies and skills the framework for skill acquisition in this dynamic field of nursing.
Exactly.
So we're looking at those at a glance documents today and how they might support growth-based grading in the educational arena.
So welcome in, everyone. This is our, again, second video in a 3-part series, but you might feel like you're coming back to this or maybe coming at it a third or fourth time, right? Feel free to pause, return to this at your own pace, and draw some connections to some of our other videos in this series as you're working through. To start by drawing some of those connections, we might invite you to pause here and reflect on some of these questions as you think about the overall approach through a program of study like a school of nursing, right? So, as a student goes through, what might be some of the assessments that they encounter more than one time in more than one class? Or maybe in one class, they might encounter those multiple times within one class. And how can students kind of grow through repeated demonstration of skills on competencies?
So our guiding question here is how does that at a glance framework function in the growth-based grading model? So, Danny, as you think about at a glance documents, really what are they in your mind and how do they really help with through lines with competencies and skills?
Yeah, so visualize everyone, if you will, a spreadsheet. And in this spreadsheet, we have our skills and competencies at the top. And then at the left-hand side, we break down every single assessment that is going on in our course and how they map together. It's essentially just a mapping document. But what that does is those skills continue to show up, or those learning outcomes continue to show up on the syllabus and they continue to show up on the rubric. And since that language is mapped out and continues to show up throughout the course, that purpose is really sort of solidified. Every single assessment is clearly mapped back to its outcome. And so there's never a question about what am I doing with this assessment? What skill am I demonstrating with this assessment? The students, after a few of them, really start understanding what the language and the coding kind of means, and they can start seeing that progression. They'll understand, oh, this is a professionalism assignment. This is an ethical care assignment. This is what I'm demonstrating here. And oftentimes, when we really make it clear for them, when we make it transparent like that, we allow them to get to the learning a little bit faster. They know what support they need. They know what they're doing a little bit more clearly than if we kind of hide that.
Mhm.
And so again, it's that really that shared map that kind of clarifies to you as the faculty member and to the student as well, this is what we're studying in this course, and this is how we move through that study of those ideas in this course. And how does that lead us to some of the transference, Dave?
Yeah, really what we're seeing in there is hopefully once they've done an assignment that assesses one competency and then they see it again, they can use the feedback from the first assignment in order to improve upon the second because the purpose is so clear to them and aligned with the language in ACN with the skills. And it really shifts the dynamic. So it's not us, you against me in terms of the professor and the student. It is us together deciphering these skills and how they apply to this assessment or to this practice. And it just makes it more accessible to the learner.
Mm-hmm.
It also provides equity among the instructors because we're grading in the same way. We're
Mm-hmm.
using the same rubrics and the same language. And so one class isn't easier than another.
Nope.
One class isn't different than another. And so really you have the same outcomes coming out in terms of student practices in each section of those class. And then what we should see is as a student progresses toward mastery throughout the program, we not only have transference from assignment to assignment within a course, we start to see transference from course to course throughout the program.
Exactly, because everybody is doing this. That's right, Dave. Everyone is doing this, and so they can see those through lines a lot clearer.
So, with at a glance documents, we want to make sure those key shifts really maintain as our pillars that we are relying on going forward. We maintain our consistency, our transparency, the simplicity, and the incentives. So, Danny, as you think about at a glance documents, what are some ways that they provide consistency?
Well, Dave, the first thing that I think about when I think about the consistency is what we were just talking about is again, this is a program-wide approach. Every course has this at a glance kind of mapping that's done and really laid out, right? And so what we really see there is again, there's that consistent demonstration of as we move through this course, as we do these assessments, and some of them might be some of the same types of assessments that you did in other courses. This is why we're continuing to demonstrate that we are growing these skills and these competencies as we progress through the course. You should be getting better at doing these things,
Mhm.
and this is what you should be getting better at in this course, and this is why you're taking multiple of these courses. So again, that alignment and that purpose is really much more transparent, I think, to the students, and again, sometimes for us as well. We are able to kind of see the purpose a little bit more clearly. That sometimes helps us to give the feedback that we need to give in that moment and really clarify that laser, right, for ourselves as well. What do you think, Dave?
Exactly. Well, I was thinking back to the rolling gradebook session and really
Mm-hmm.
making sure that the excellence is being valued in here. And
Right.
so by aligning it to those skills and competencies, we can say, you're not there yet. Here's how you get better. And it really clarifies how those competencies within the course and the program build on each other and how that progression happens. And so you can say, you didn't get it on this assignment, but we have another assignment coming up where you will demonstrate, here's what I'm looking for you to do. Or a student might come to you in the beginning of the semester and say, hey, I struggled on this one last semester. Here's how can I get better on this specific
Yeah.
competency going forward. And that's just that clear path for them to improve
Yeah.
throughout there. And that's the biggest incentive is I not only will get this A, but I am going to emerge from this a more practiced and more proficient nurse.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Dave. And I think that takes us back to some of the positive outcomes that we really see here. And I want to make a quick connection over to the portfolio because the portfolio ties in, I think, with this really well with, again, those mapped competencies and those similar assessments that they're doing across the board. So with the students, right there, when they've got those two tools working together, they'll see that larger picture. They'll understand why it is that they're taking this course versus this course and why it is that they're doing this particular assessment so many times. They'll understand that purpose, and so that buy-in will be there from a little bit faster from the beginning.
Mhm.
And we'll again get to the demonstration instead of learning what's going on with this assessment, right? It should lead to something I was thinking about a little bit earlier when you were speaking, Dave. That idea that eventually most of the assessments will become common assessments, and that makes things easier for us and for the students as well, because learning is going to continue to feel purposeful. Everything's going to continue to feel continuous, and it's going to be part of a larger journey that makes sense together,
Yeah,
right?
they can really focus on the specific competency that they're demonstrating throughout there. And we can look at how to how they want to we want them to reflect on that, and then how we want to assess that as well.
Right,
And
Dave.
as we said before, the transference from course to course and instructor to instructor is a really big thing within there as well. It also makes it easier for us as instructors because we are working together to make our
Hmm.
courses streamlined and equitable and aligned to specific standards, not only for that course but within that program. And it's just much more efficient in terms of the practices that we have as
That's
educators.
right, Dave. I really think of this really as understanding like how my assessment sits within my course and how my course sits within the larger program, right? And it's about kind of clarifying that all the way down to the finitest point of that day that that student is having. This is how this day is part of this larger program or thing that you're a part of, right? And so as we start to wrap up, everyone, consider now, what are the skills? What are the competencies that you are assessing within each of the assessments? And if you can't tie it back, that might be telling you that that assessment might not be one that's serving your needs. We got rid of a fair number of things as we progress through this reflective framework.
Yeah.
It's not really assessing a needed skill, so let's get rid of it or let's revise it so that it does. What about the course? And how is that being communicated? Does everyone understand what the purpose is? Right?
Help them see the forest through the trees.
Yeah, and how them that gets us to those incentives, right? So feel free to pause, everyone. Feel free to go back, and we'll catch you back here in just a few moments.
So, just to summarize today, we explored our tool today, which was at a glance documents, which provide a list and a map of how a specific course outlines the competencies and how it works within the program as well to make sure that we are mastering all of the competencies by the time that we get to the end. And so we explored that within the way that these tools work, but it's also important to understand that this at a glance document doesn't function independently. It needs a rolling gradebook and it needs the portfolio in order to really function the way it needs to.
Yeah. And so this is kind of a conclusion point, perhaps, if you're at the end of your journey with your set of three. But if you have another one that you need to get to, of course, think about all three in the set. We're here to continue to support you, everyone. Our email address is there on the screen, d2educationalconsulting@gmail.com. Questions, concerns, comments, feel free to drop us a line or find us on socials because we're here to continue the conversation as you put boots on the ground and make growth-based grading a reality.
So, one more time, everybody, I'm Dave Friedman,
And I'm Danny Miller.
and thanks so much for joining us today.